When everything seems lost, when the weight of the world seems to crush your chest and silence your hope, it is precisely in that moment that heaven is at work. You may not see it, you may not feel it, but there is a divine hand weaving the threads of your destiny in silence. Life has a way of stripping us of illusions, tearing down what is false, and leaving us face to face with the deepest truth. Without God, we are nothing. But with Him, even in the desert, there is a promise of abundance. Think about this. The darkest night always precedes the dawn. Nature itself teaches us this rhythm. Seeds rot underground before sprouting. Caterpillars dissolve inside their cocoons before being transformed into butterflies. The desert precedes the promised land. And you, right now, may be in your own cocoon, in your own desert, in your own night. It feels like everything is ending, but in truth, something new is being born. God works in silence because silence removes distractions. When everything is noisy and busy, you can't hear His whisper. But when you are broken, when you feel abandoned, when you think no one is listening, that's when His voice becomes clearer. He does not shout. He speaks in the quiet, in the depths of your spirit. And His words are not condemnation. They are life, strength, and direction. Sometimes God allows us to lose what we thought was essential to show us what truly is. A job that ends, a relationship that breaks, a plan that collapses. All of this can seem like tragedy, but often it is protection. You don't yet see what He is saving you from, but one day you will. The disappointment you feel today may be the exact door that closes so that you don't walk into a path of destruction. What feels like punishment may actually be preparation. When everything seems lost, remember, God is not improvising. He is not surprised by your pain. He knew it before it arrived, and He already has a way out. It is not always the way you expect, but it is always the way you need. His timing is perfect, though to our human eyes it often feels late. The truth is that God never arrives late. He arrives at the exact moment when your heart is ready to understand what He is doing. The silence of God is not His absence. It is His presence working in hidden ways. Think about Joseph in the prison of Egypt, forgotten by men but remembered by God. Think about Job, stripped of everything but never abandoned. Think about Jesus in the tomb. The silence of Saturday felt like the end, but resurrection was already on its way. In your silence, resurrection is also on its way. This season of loss may actually be the ground where your new identity is being planted. You are not who you were yesterday, and God does not intend for you to remain the same tomorrow. He allows crises because crises create growth. He allows losses because losses awaken what comfort numbs. He allows deserts because deserts train you to depend only on Him. So when everything seems lost, ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me here? What is He preparing me for? The answer may not come immediately, but one day you will look back and see that nothing was wasted. Every tear watered a new seed. Every silence was a classroom. Every loss was a doorway to something greater. In the moments when everything seems lost, it's easy to believe that God has forgotten you. But remember this, the silence of heaven is not neglect, it is strategy. God is positioning you in places that you cannot yet see. He is aligning people, circumstances, and opportunities in ways that seem invisible now, but will become undeniable in the future. What feels like waiting is actually divine preparation. The problem is that we often want instant answers. We live in a world of immediacy, where everything is available with just one click. But God does not operate by our calendar. He operates by eternity. While you cry over what was lost, He is already holding what will be given. While you mourn over what ended, He is already writing a new beginning. Every delay in your eyes is precision in His. Sometimes God will strip everything away, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you from the foundation up. Imagine a house that looks strong on the outside but has cracks in its structure. To build something that lasts, you first have to tear it down. That is what God does with your soul. He removes the fragile structures built on pride, fear, and illusion, and replaces them with foundations of faith, humility, and truth. It hurts, yes, but it saves you. Do not confuse silence with abandonment. Look at the heroes of faith. Moses wandered 40 years in the desert. David hid in caves while pursued by Saul. Jesus Himself spent years in anonymity before His public mission. In each case, silence was the place of preparation, the furnace that forged them into vessels capable of carrying God's glory. If they needed silence to be transformed, why would it be different for you? You may be in your cave, in your desert, in your Saturday of silence. But what you don't see is that God is shaping your character, strengthening your faith, and sharpening your vision. What feels like delay is actually acceleration in the spiritual realm. Because when the door finally opens, you won't walk into it unprepared. You'll walk into it equipped, matured, and aligned with God's will. And here's the truth. The greater the calling, the deeper the process. Diamonds are made under pressure. Gold is purified in fire. Warriors are trained in battle. You cannot expect a great destiny without walking through a great process. What you are facing today may simply be evidence that God has chosen you for something extraordinary. Hold on to this. Nothing is wasted. Every tear, every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer is being collected by the Creator. In time, He will return them to you as strength, as wisdom, as testimony. Your scars will not be marks of shame, but proof of survival and transformation. When everything seems lost, that is the perfect stage for God to show that He is everything. Human resources run out, people fail, your strength collapses, but His grace never ends. And it is when you finally let go of control that you discover He was holding you all along. So don't give up in the silence. Don't stop in the desert. Don't give in to despair. Trust that the same God who allowed this valley will lead you to the mountaintop. What looks like the end is just a chapter in the story He is still writing. And His stories always end in redemption, in restoration, in glory. Many times, it is in the deepest silence that the greatest transformations take place. When it seems that nothing is moving, that every door is shut, and that your prayers go unanswered, God is working behind the scenes. He has not forgotten you. He is simply preparing something so great that it must be built out of sight, so that your faith can be purified and strengthened. The process of transformation requires that you first be emptied. It is painful to feel directionless, without resources or without support, but this emptiness is not a punishment. It is a sacred space being created within you so that something new can be born. If you were still full of old illusions, attachments, and false securities, there would be no room for the divine renewal that is about to enter your life. God wastes no tear, no pain, and no desert. Every detail of your struggle has a purpose. Sometimes, He allows you to reach the end of yourself so that you finally realize it is not your strength that will save you, but His. This surrender is not weakness, but trust. It is when you let go of control that His power shines most clearly. At this point, faith ceases to be theory and becomes experience. You begin to understand that believing in God does not just mean expecting blessings, but trusting even when everything seems against you. That trust becomes the bridge that carries you through storms you never thought you could endure. Every delay hides a preparation. The things you think are being withheld from you are often being aligned so that when they arrive, they will be perfect, complete, and lasting. If they came before time, they would not only be incomplete, but they might even destroy you instead of lifting you higher. Divine timing is not about speed, it is about perfection. And in this waiting, your character is forged. You learn patience, humility, resilience, and compassion. These are not just virtues. They are tools that will sustain you when you step into the greater purpose God has for you. Without these qualities, even the greatest blessing could crush you under its weight. What feels like abandonment is often the greatest proof of God's presence, because only a loving Father allows His children to be refined in the fire, knowing that the fire does not consume but transforms. The silence of God is never absence. It is preparation for revelation. So, when everything looks empty, when life feels like ashes, and when hope seems out of reach, remember, the seed must first die in the soil before it can sprout. What looks like the end is actually the beginning. God's silence is not His denial. It is His strategy to bring forth something greater than you can imagine. This is the transformation that God prepares in silence. He takes broken vessels and makes them whole. He takes forgotten souls and makes them chosen. He takes endings and makes them beginnings. When everything seems lost, dare to believe. Because that is the exact moment when God is closest, shaping you, renewing you, and preparing to reveal the masterpiece He has been creating with your life.